Why are we reading Thoreau? Because that's just what we prefer to read, so that's the answer. We're reading it because we feel like it. We came to chapter number 6. After Thoreau had left, we read the section where he left Walden, mainly to go live with Emerson's wife. But anyways, we are at a writer's life now. Now that we pretty much established him as he established himself. We went to Walden to become a writer, to write. Don't comment. A writer's life, 1847 to 1849. How can I communicate with the gods who am a pencil maker on the earth and not be insane? Oh, this is Henry David Thoreau, A Week on the Concord and Merrimack Rivers. It's interesting, can a pencil maker be a writer? Why not? Seems perfect if you had a pencil. Will you be my father? Questioned Thoreau at the Emersons. Although Thoreau later wondered why he had been so willing to leave Walden. In a sense, he never did leave. Walden stayed with him for the rest of his life, anchoring his reborn sense of self, independent, solitary, even in the midst of crowds, grounded in the splash and spring of bedrock nature. A few weeks after he moved back to town, Thoreau wrote proudly to the class of '37 that he'd lived up to the defiant ideals of his Harvard commencement speech. Quote, I have found out a way to live without what is commonly called employment or industry. My steadiest employment, if such it can be called, is to keep myself at the top of my condition and ready for whatever may turn up in heaven or on earth. Do you think we should be in top condition? Why shouldn't we relate to this reading, dear? What's the purpose of reading?
You have to say it in your mind, whatever you like.
I want to be in top condition. At Walden, he'd met heaven. Now it was time to meet the challenges of earth, home, and society. For if what he'd found at Walden was real, it would follow him everywhere, even here. Once again, the little green writing desk stood at the prophet's chamber at the head of the Emerson stairs. For the next 10 months, from October 5th, 1847 to July 30, 1848, Thoreau was not merely gardener and handyman, but head of the household responsible for a bustling community, Lydion and the 3 Emerson children. 8-year-old Alan, here we go, the children. 8-year-old Alan, 6-year-old Edith, and 3-year-old Edward. Wow. Or Ellie, Eddie, and Eddie. Ellie, the 3 E's. Ellie, Eddie, and Eddie, as they became in Henry's letters. Plus Aunt Lucy Brown and the family's live-in servants, Abby and Almira Stevens. That's quite a household. You have to see the Emerson house now in Concord. What about commentary? But it has no value without commentary. It is a little like joining community, this life to such a hermit as I. Thoreau admitted to Emerson, but but this new experiment was good for society united Do not regret my transient, nor my permanent share in it. Thoreau was in charge of the kitchen garden and the landscaping, which meant overseeing Emerson's gardener, Hugh Walden. He also kept track of Emerson's complicated financial affairs, which required endless consultations, and he spent hours each day with the children. Letters crossed the Atlantic, chock full of news and the adventures. Lydia and I made very good housekeepers, Thoreau reassured Emerson. Quote, she is a very dear sister to me. Alan and Edith and Eddie and Auntie Brown keep up the tragic comedy of life as usual. While Alan and Edith attended Aunt Alcott's day school at Hillside, Henry tutored little Eddie, who had taken to surveying the world from Henry's shoulders, and hinted Henry to father, Waldo, he would know how to appreciate, quote, any new and rare breed of wooden or pewter horses. He very seriously asked me the other day, Mr. Thoreau, will you be my father? I am occasionally Mr. Rough and tumble with him, that I may not miss him, and least he should miss you too much. Waldo was surprised and grateful. Quote, our Spartan Buddhist Henry. How do you like that? He's both Spartan and Buddhist. That's perfect combination. Our Spartan Buddhist Henry is a Pierre, French word for father, Pierre, or known Père, or bon hombre malgré le. He wrote Odeon. It was a daily comfort to think of Henry there with the family. The town's juiciest piece of gossip at that fall was Sophia Foord's marriage proposal to Henry Thoreau. The town's juiciest piece of gossip that fall was Sophia Foord's marriage proposal to Henry Thoreau. What is that? That's what we'll find out. She really did wish to. I hesitate to write, marry me. That is the way they spell it. He wrote, Emerson. She proposed to him. Of course he said no. He added hastily, quote, I really had anticipated no such foe as this in my career. Emerson blushed in reply, quote, you tell me in your letter one odorous circumstance which we will dismiss from remembrance henceforth. Foord, who was 45, half again Thoreau's age. What's that mean? Foord, who was 45, half again Thoreau's age, had lived with the Alcotts before joining the Emersons as a tutor, and one of Thoreau's jobs while living out at Walden was to come into town to remodel Emerson's barn into her schoolroom and living quarters. Ill health forced Foord to resign after a year, and she left an impression. The children all liked her, recalled Allen. Louisa May Alcott remembered her leading the girls on a walk, disrobing and splashing along in Flint's Pond, quote, making the fishes run like mad before our big claws. When we got to the other side, we had a funny time getting on our shoes and unmentionables. Then we came tumbling home all wet and muddy, bawling and singing like crazy folks. The free-spirited. Here she is, a free-spirited Foord. This is Sophia Foord, who proposed to Henry. The free-spirited Foord did strike some as eccentric. Late in 1849, Aunt Maria was horrified at a rumor that she was suicidal on account of Henry, to whom she sent incoherent letters, which he burned after reading. God, is that interesting? Foord kept on teaching, kept in touch with the Alcotts, and kept an eye on the Thoreaus, too, in 1869. She startled Henry's sister Sophia by approaching her at a meeting in Boston with the words, quote, "You don't know me, Miss Thoreau," unquote. After Ford's death in 1885, Louisa paid tribute to her happy lessons with, quote, "Many a flower hunt with Thoreau for our guide," unquote, and to, quote, her lifelong desire for high thinking and holy living. To the end, Ford insisted she was Thoreau's soulmate, whose spirit would join him in the afterlife, where neither age nor Victorian proprieties of marriage could come between them.
So, why? What was the difference between them?
Between them? I don't know the age difference. Don't understand that statement up there. Have to look it up. She wanted to marry Henry David Thoreau, but he said no.
She was the one who had twice his age.
She, who was 45, half again Thoreau's age. Does that mean she's Thoreau's age plus half again? She's older. So he couldn't have been 45. At this point, he just left Walden. Another preoccupation that summer was the building of Emerson's summer house. After plans for a poet's lodge on Emerson's cliff languished, Alcott found a way to spiritualize the summer day by cutting and weaving willow wands into a twiggy tent. Thoreau and Emerson liked it, and Emerson commissioned Alcott to build a grander version in his yard. In July 1847, they all rode out to Emerson's Walden wood lot, cut down 20 young hemlocks, carted them home for the house post. "Think of these trees," wrote Emerson, "growing for so many years, even as he was sleeping," quote, "fenced, bought, and owned by other men," unquote, "now to grant him their share of sun and earth, rain and frost." Neither he nor Alcott mentioned how Thoreau had to catch a tree Alcott felled toward some neighboring trees, guiding it by main strength to land on open ground. Soon Alcott and Thoreau were lying on the floor, raising the nine joist, and one for each of the muses, said Alcott, instead of framing the house with timbers in the usual way, as Thoreau did at Walden. Alcott wove and lashed the whole together, branch by crooked branch, each one searched out and carried home by Thoreau. Emerson watched anxiously as it took shape, expecting the whole mess to collapse. Quote, "I think to call it Tumbledown Hall," he joked to Lydian. To Fuller he wrote that it was, quote, "of growing alarming dimensions, peristyle gables, domer windows, and see in the midst of my cornfield." We read about Thoreau living with the Emersons and about the woman who proposed to him. Thoreau, the Spartan Buddhist. I guess the thing to be now is a Spartan Buddhist. So Thoreau is always setting the style. We read from page 232 to 235 in A Writer's Life. This is how you become a writer.